Hello, and welcome to another Outside Review. Before we get started, I would like to ask you to please subscribe and hit that bell. Now today, we are going to take an in-depth review of F.E.A.R, an instant classic produced by Monolith Productions. It uses the Lithtech Jupiter EX engine, a piece of technological black magic that was also used for this game's sequel and its expansion Perseus Mandate. And it has also been used in games as recent as Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. However, F.E.A.R is special. I remember picking this up from my old Xbox, back when all I had was an old dusty PS2 and an Xbox Super Spinny. I popped the disc in, and nothing. The disc was scratched because I was poor and it was pre-owned. But I went back and picked up a replacement copy and put that one in, and what I got was the most thrilling, chilling, kung fu killing time I'd ever had. My tiny smooth brain couldn't even process all of the awesome that was going on! All my idiot kid brain could process was that I was basically Neo and my job was to ruin everyone's frickin' day. And it was fucking awesome! Now, I know this game was released on Microsoft Windows in 2005, and I also know that this was later ported to the PS3 and the Xbox Full Circle in 2007. But I could have sworn I have played this beforehand on the original Xbox. I went to my cousin's house, and he had every console imaginable, from the Xbox, GameCube, PlayStation 2, everything that was out in 2005 to 2006, everything you could have had, except for a solid PC. And I remember my first introduction to this game being on his original Xbox, having played Halo 2 just beforehand, and then being showed this afterwards. And it was before the launch of the Xbox Propeller. But I've scoured the internet and I can't find anything anywhere on this, so I guess it must have been just a Monster Energy-induced fever dream. So, pushing my bad brain out of the way, let's get into this review, shall we? So the game starts off pretty vague. All you know right off the bat is there's a dude who's not very happy, some soldiers who like sleeping standing up, and after their little power nap go and murder anyone they find, and then they just stand around while Hungry Man turns people into manwiches. Then we get some exposition. Essentially we are a guy who's named Point Man, who has ridiculous reflexes for unknown reasons, and you are a new recruit and part of an elite organization of operatives known as F.E.A.R, First Encounter Assault and Recon. You are tasked with hunting down the Hungry Man we first saw. His name is actually Paxton Fettel, which sounds like it should have been on a list from birth anyways. Now, all we know is that Paxton is tied to a person named Alma, who was a very powerful psychic, and he is also an equally powerful psychic as far as we know. Apparently he has some sort of mental manipulation over the sleepy soldiers and can command them all with his mind. Hamburger?
I remember him. But all the memory is mine.
Which is already crazy and an understandably large threat. We don't want some cannibal in charge of genetically altered soldiers. On top of that, we have Alma herself, who has essentially become a force of nature, moving unseen unless she wishes to be, and being able to just freaking melt anyone within her vicinity if she so chooses. Yes, CO, I would like a career change. That being said, I will not spoil any more of the story. If you want to know more, you can head over to my YouTube channel to watch me play through the game, link down in the description, or just experience the game for yourself. What I'm here to do right now is to just help you decide whether that's a thing you want to do, and spend your hard-earned cash on that. In short, the answer is yes! Just yes! This game is an absolute gem as far as its gameplay is concerned. There are actually 3 defining factors that make this game so fucking good, and it's all within the combat loop. First, we have the gunplay, which by itself is incredibly basic, with basic hip firing and a zoomed in hip fire, as well as a small assortment of grenades to use.
What the fuck?
But then we also have the slow-mo mechanic, which completely changes the whole game. Especially when you use the melee combat in tandem, which consists of a basic gun bash, a jump kick, and slide tackle. Suddenly it feels like you've stepped into the fucking Matrix. You just turn into an unstoppable wall of gunfire and roundhouse kicks. Not to mention, the gore in this game was excellent back then. You could blow individual parts of the body off, or if you were using the hilariously overpowered shotgun, you would just totally blast them into pasty jelly. Perfect for that hungry man's toast. The weapon lineup is pretty basic for today's standards. You have the aforementioned shotgun, which I use throughout the whole game, as it's overpowered as fuck. But there are other FPS staples like the SMG, modeled after an MP5. The handgun, which can also go akimbo. We have the assault rifle, the burst rifle, and the rocket launcher respectively, as well as some kind of rail cannon, which kinda kicks ass. But then we have two unique staples to this game alone. We have the particle weapon, which is basically plasma beam that leaves nothing but a pile of bones. And then we have the nail gun, which, as it specifies, nails its target. What? Right to a wall.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of targets, there are only really 4 types of enemies. We have basic grunts, which come in Sleepy Man or ATC flavors. And then later on, we face off against these heavy units.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Which take a metric fuck ton of bullets to take down. I am stupid! Oh, that one was right past my face. And then we have what is essentially the heavier unit in the form of the mech, which this guy takes frickin' all day to kill. But you only really face off against like 4 or 5 of them. I guess they're supposed to be boss enemies. So thankfully you won't have to do this too many times. And then finally, at the near end of the game, you start encountering these ghost motherfuckers. And these guys are spooky, until you realize they can be taken down by wet farts. Feels like we're in Halloween Town. What I love about this game is this game really tackles the power fantasy side of things very well. As this game is as hard as you allow it to be, you are given the tools to handle every situation, and it's really down to you to make sure you use them. You're really incentivized to use the reflexes as much as possible, use cover and leaning to your advantage, and most importantly, you have to keep moving and utilize the arena you have been given to your advantage. As the AI are actually one of the better AI systems I have ever seen, still to this day. See, the AI are designed to find cover with the best lines of sights, and to try and push you instead of just hiding behind cover the whole time. They will also be communicating with each other all the time, which both helps you locate them and keep tabs on their positions, but also helps you know how many there are, how and when they will push or fall back, or simply how they are feeling at the time. Which works in your favor, that much is true, but it also works for them. There can be a couple of guys chattering behind a wall to your left, and you won't hear the guy flanking to your right, which can lead to a massive surprise. Which really is a testament to how good this game's sound design is. Guns and explosions aside, every sound in this game was designed to have a function, whether to let you know where enemies are, or when tonal shifts in the game's atmosphere hit, or to specifically get you to leak down your leg. Wrong move, buddy. Wrong move. The guys at Monolith really knew what they were doing. There are, of course, some funny glitches to mess around with as well. The slide tackle has some interesting physics when you kick some dead bodies around, or really any physics objects at all. First fuck up didn't happen, yeah? Fuck. Press the damn button.
You don't mess around, do you?
No, I do not. Now, on to the other side of the gameplay. The horror! This game isn't very scary to me now, as I am, of course, a big, strong, manly man. Check me, gun! Excuse me? Ah! Yeah! Yeah, anyway, this game has the spooks. You remember that little girl Alma? Yeah, she's stalking you and her goal is to haunt your fucking nightmares. Now, I don't know what it is about little girls and horror, but there is something so unsettling about it. But it works every single time. And this little girl, she is the freaking king. Wait, queen? That being said, I don't want this video to be too long, so let's move on. This game was released back in 2005, and as I said before, this game is also running on the Lithtech engine, and boy did Monolith put it to full effect here. For the time, this game was on the front lines, alongside Doom 3 and Half-Life 2, although it came out about a year later than those two. Regardless, it was melting average hardware all the same. Nowadays, though, it's not much to look at compared to modern AAA titles, but honestly speaking, I think it totally still holds up. Sure, it has dated textures, but the lighting was fantastic, the shadows were ahead of their time, and the particle effects were explosive and all over the damn place. Plus, the slow-mo really kicked things up as everything essentially went into a slowed down, explosive frenzy of chaos and fucking destruction with body parts flying all over the goddamn place. Which is probably why this game kicks so much fucking ass! Not to mention the weapons and environments were modeled and textured pretty damn well, especially when you're blowing it all to pieces. As every bullet would tear holes out of the walls and pillars, showing an early display of destructible environments. That being said, the character models for the F.E.A.R operatives were a little questionable.
Officer, I got one question for you. What are those?
A huge bonus for such an old game, though, is it runs in native 1920 by 1080, which cannot be said for a lot of games that came out around that same time period. And FOV is actually pretty easy to adjust for such an old game, you just gotta use the console commands. That being said, there is a really annoying glitch where the frames will drop below 30 frames per second because it has problems running on Windows 10. But a doctor-prescribed mod download will clear that shit right up. I have found that most games running on the Lithtech engine actually do not like modern hardware, and this mod that I found pretty much fixes any problems you'll have with any game running on the Lithtech engine. At least it's worked for this one, F.E.A.R 2, and Condemned Criminal Origins. Those are the only three I've tried. A huge part of a game's presentation is the audio, and like I mentioned before, this game's audio is fantastic, at least for the most part. As the horror settings are pretty fucking amazing and pretty much ooze with forebodance. And I've already touched on the directional audio, which helps with enemies. But where the game is lacking really is in the weapon sound effects. Most of the weapons basically have this sort of stock sound effect going on for them, specifically the SMG. And none of the other weapons sound particularly punchy. Except, of course, the shotgun. Which sounds like a mechanical explosion container, which, to be fair, it hits like a freight train, so it would only seem right to make it sound like one too. So in conclusion, yes, this game's fucking amazing. This game is easily one of my favorite all-time games from the mid-2000s. It's right there with Halo 3, Resident Evil 4, and Bad Company 2 for my all-time favorite games of the 2000s. And I would highly recommend anyone who has a fully functioning central cortex to play this game. It's a great experience, as well as an excellent way to relive those classic days of when all you had to worry about was kicking ass, shooting guns, and having a blast. Well, that pretty much wraps up everything I need to say. This has been another Outside Review. Thanks for watching, and just reminding you to hit that subscribe button, smack that like button, and if you want notifications of when future videos come out, might as well ring that bell as well. Also, please don't forget to check out my gaming channel and my Twitch channel, links down below. Until next time, peace!